My husband and I went into the store to do some regular shopping. As we were approaching the checkout, he stepped away to take a phone call. I paid and was about to leave when an elderly security guard came up to me. Is that your husband? I nodded. He quietly said, "Come with me, dear. This is about your husband. You'd better see it for yourself." Amanda woke up that morning feeling slightly tired. Outside, a light autumn rain was falling. Gray clouds hung low over the city, and it seemed the day would be as gray and ordinary as dozens of others. She stretched, threw back the blanket, and headed to the kitchen, where the smell of freshly brewed coffee already filled the air. Ben, her husband, was sitting at the table with his phone in hand, occasionally sipping from his favorite blue mug. "Good morning," Amanda said, pouring herself some coffee. "Morning," Ben replied shortly, without looking up from the screen. She sat down across from him, studying him. They had been together for 7 years that had seemed quite happy, although lately something had changed. Ben had become more distant, stayed at work longer, and his phone had turned into some sort of forbidden territory. But Amanda pushed away the dark thoughts. "He's probably just tired. His job is stressful. Lots of pressure. We need to go to the store," she said, taking a bite of toast. "The fridge is almost empty, and we need to prepare something for the weekend." Ben nodded, still buried in his phone. "Okay. Let's go after lunch. I just need to make a couple of calls." Amanda looked at him and gave a faint smile. Always those calls, always some errands. But she didn't argue. She rarely argued at all. Maybe that was her mistake, being too accommodating, too pliable. The day dragged slowly. Amanda did household chores, sorted through things in the closet, and tidied the shelves. The apartment was jointly owned, but registered in her name. It had happened after her mother passed away, and left Ben this 2-room apartment in a nice neighborhood. Ben moved in with her then, and they began living together. The apartment was cozy, bright, with large windows and a view of the old park. Amanda loved this place. Her childhood had been spent here. She felt safe here. Around 3 in the afternoon, Ben came out of the room, dressed and ready to leave. "So, shall we go?" he asked, grabbing the car keys. Amanda quickly put on her jacket and grabbed her bag. They went down to the car, and Ben started the engine. The drive to the supermarket took about 15 minutes. Light music played on the radio. Ben tapped his fingers on the steering wheel in time, while Amanda gazed out the window at the gray streets, pedestrians with umbrellas and wet sidewalks. She remembered how she and Ben had met. It had been at a friend's office party. He had seemed so charming, attentive, and interesting. They talked all evening, and Amanda felt she had finally met the right person. Ben was 5 years older than her. He worked as a sales manager at a construction company, traveled a lot for site visits, and met with clients. He could speak well, make an impression. Amanda fell in love, quickly and completely. The first years of their life together were happy. They traveled on vacations, hosted evenings with friends, cooked dinners. Ben was attentive, gave flowers for no reason, complimented her. Amanda felt loved and needed. But gradually something began to change. At first subtly, then increasingly obvious. Ben became more withdrawn and irritable. His phone was always with him, and he never left it unattended. When Amanda asked what was wrong, he would brush it off: work, problems, stress. And she believed him. She wanted to believe him. The supermarket was large and modern, with wide aisles and bright lighting. They went inside, grabbed a cart, and Amanda took out the shopping list she had made that morning. Ben walked beside her, occasionally tossing something into the cart: a pack of chips, a bottle of soda. Amanda selected items methodically, checking them against the list. She enjoyed this process, slowly moving through the aisles, picking fresh vegetables, reading labels, discovering something new and interesting. They moved leisurely through the sections. Amanda picked vegetables, weighed tomatoes, sorted cucumbers. These were too soft. These were just right. She put a few cucumbers in a bag, weighed them, and attached a price sticker. In the dairy section, she picked up cottage cheese, kefir, and sour cream. Ben stood nearby but seemed distracted. He kept checking his phone, looking things up, typing messages. The screen glowed in his hands, and Amanda saw how quickly his fingers moved across the keyboard. "Who are you texting? Waiting for something?" Amanda asked, trying to sound casual. "No. Just a colleague promised to send some documents." he replied, slipping the phone into his pocket. She nodded and continued selecting groceries. They reached the bread and pastry section. The smell of fresh dough filled the air. It was so homey, so comforting. Amanda picked up a loaf of bread and a few cinnamon rolls. Ben liked them with his tea. She always tried to make him happy, took care of him, cooked his favorite dishes. Maybe she tried too hard. Maybe he had long taken it for granted. Suddenly Ben stopped and frowned, staring at his phone screen. His face tensed, his eyebrows knitted together. "I need to take this call," he said sharply. "It's important. I'll step aside for a minute." "All right. I'll head to the checkout in the meantime," Amanda said. Ben nodded and quickly walked toward the exit of the sales floor, holding the phone to his ear. Amanda watched him go. Something about his behavior seemed strange, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Maybe he was just tired, or maybe there really were problems at work. She tried to push the unpleasant thoughts away and pushed the cart further. They still needed meat and fish. Amanda approached the refrigerated section, scanning the packages. "Here's a good chicken, fresh and salmon, perfect for baking in the oven with vegetables." She put the items in the cart and headed toward the checkout. The line was short, only 2 people ahead. Amanda stood there, glancing at the magazine and chocolate displays by the register. Happy family couples smiled from the covers, promising perfect dinner recipes and tips for a lasting marriage. She smirked to herself, as if it's all that simple. An elderly woman with a full cart was ahead of her. The cashier scanned the items slowly and methodically. The woman rummaged through her purse, taking out her wallet and counting coins. Amanda waited patiently, lost in her thoughts, about how her life with Ben had changed, about feeling lonely even when he was nearby, about how they hadn't really talked for a long time, hadn't laughed together, hadn't made plans for the future. The line moved forward, and soon Amanda was placing her groceries on the conveyor belt. The cashier, a young woman with a tired face, began scanning the items. Beep, beep, beep. The monotone sound of the scanner was oddly calming. Amanda looked toward the exit, trying to spot Ben, but he was nowhere to be seen. Probably the conversation was taking longer than expected. "That'll be $320, said the cashier. Amanda took out her card and tapped it on the terminal. The transaction went through. She gathered the shopping bags, placed them in the cart, and headed for the exit. Ben still hadn't appeared. The call must really have been important. Amanda stopped by a stand with promotional brochures, deciding to wait there. She checked her phone. It had already been about 10 minutes since he stepped away. It was strange. Usually his work calls didn't take this long. Another minute passed, then another. Amanda began to feel anxious. Where was he? Had something happened? She reached for her phone to call him, but at that moment, an elderly man in a security guard uniform approached her. He was a short, stout man, around 60, with gray hair and kind eyes. His face was weathered and tired, but his gaze was attentive and sharp. "His badge says Anthony," he said quietly as he came closer. "You came here with a man, correct?" Amanda looked at him in surprise. For some reason, her heart skipped a beat. Something in the guard's voice put her on edge. "Yes, with my husband." "What happened?" Amanda asked. Anthony hesitated, clearly choosing his words carefully. He looked around to make sure no one was listening, then turned back to her. Worry was etched on his face, even a kind of compassion that scared her even more. Anthony sighed heavily. He looked her in the eyes, and Amanda saw something like pity in his gaze. That frightened her even more. "Come with me, dear," he said quietly. "It's about your husband. You'd better see this yourself." Amanda's heart sank. Something in the elderly guard's voice, in his sad eyes, in the way he called her dear, made her tense. She felt a chill run down her spine, her hands growing damp with sudden sweat. "What happened?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What do you want to show me? Is he all right?" "Come with me. I'll explain everything," Anthony said, carefully taking her by the elbow. "Not here. Let's go to the staff area. There we can talk in private." Amanda felt flustered. Her first instinct was to refuse, to find Ben, to ask him what was going on. But something in the guard's demeanor made her trust him. Maybe it was the expression on his face. Maybe it was her intuition telling her that this man meant no harm. Or maybe it was his tone, caring, almost fatherly, full of genuine concern. "All right," she said quietly. I'll go with you. Anthony nodded and led her through the sales floor to the staff door, past which ordinary shoppers passed without a second glance. The door was gray and nondescript, with a sign that read, Staff Only. The guard took out a key, unlocked the door, and they entered a narrow corridor with dim lighting. The air smelled musty, a mix of cleaning chemicals and old paint. The walls were painted pale green, and the floor was covered with worn linoleum. Amanda felt her pulse quicken. What's going on? Why is the guard acting so strangely? What is he going to show me? 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind, each more frightening than the last. Could something have happened to Ben? Could he have gotten into trouble? Could he have been caught stealing? No, that's ridiculous. Ben would never steal anything. They walked down the corridor and entered a small room. This was the security office. Several monitors on a desk displayed feeds from the store cameras. An old sofa sat against the wall, next to a table with a thermos and mugs. Charts, instructions, and shift schedules hung on the walls. Everything was simple and functional. In the corner stood an old fan, and on the windowsill sat a withered ficus in a plastic pot. Please have a seat, Anthony said, gesturing to a chair by the desk with the monitors. Amanda sat down, keeping her eyes on the guard. Her hands trembled, and she clenched them into fists to hide her anxiety. Her mouth was dry, and she swallowed hard, trying to steady herself against the rising panic. What happened? She asked again, her voice hoarse. Please tell me, you're scaring me. Anthony closed the door and walked over to the monitors. He paused, gathering his thoughts, and Amanda saw him sigh deeply, the wrinkles on his forehead deepening. Then he turned back to her. You see, dear, he began quietly, I've worked here for 5 years. In that time I've seen all kinds of things, and I've learned to read people pretty well. It comes with experience, you understand? When you see thousands of people every day, you start noticing details that others miss. Amanda listened without interrupting, though inside she felt her chest tightening with anxiety. She wanted him to get to the point quickly, yet at the same time she feared what he might say. When you and your husband came into the store, I immediately noticed him. Anthony continued. I don't know why. Something about his behavior just seemed off. He was too tense, checking his phone too often, glancing around nervously. I've had enough experience in life to know when someone is hiding something. Amanda felt her stomach turn. She wanted to protest, to tell him he was wrong, that Ben was just tired, that he had work stress. But the words stuck in her throat. When he stepped away from you, I followed him on the cameras. Anthony continued, his voice even quieted her. Just out of curiosity, you understand? I didn't want to pry, but something told me I needed to watch, and I saw something that really concerned me. He met her eyes, and Amanda felt the ground shift beneath her. Blood rushed to her face, then drained away just as quickly, and the room seemed to blur around her. With a woman, she whispered, Which woman? What are you talking about? I'll show you, the guard said, turning toward the monitors. Our cameras record audio in some areas, not everywhere, of course, but some sections do. It's a security requirement to capture everything happening in the store, and right in that corner where they were talking, one of those cameras is installed. I listened to their conversation, and realized I had to show it to you. I couldn't just stay silent. He pressed a few buttons on the control panel, rewinding the footage. Amanda sat frozen, unable to move. Her mind refused to believe what she was seeing. This had to be a mistake. Some misunderstanding. Ben couldn't betray her. He just couldn't. Here, look, Anthony said softly, pointing to one of the monitors. Amanda shifted her gaze to the screen and froze. On the monitor, she saw Ben. He was standing in a far corner of the store, near shelves with plastic containers and kitchenware. A woman stood next to him. Amanda had never seen her before. She was an elegant lady of about 40, wearing an expensive coat and high-heeled shoes. Her hair was styled neatly, her makeup flawless. She looked confident, businesslike, successful. Ben was standing very close to her, too close for just an acquaintance. They were talking about something, and from their postures, from the way they leaned toward each other, it was clear. This was not a chance encounter. Amanda couldn't take her eyes off the screen. Her heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it might leap out of her chest. Her hands had gone cold, and her mouth had gone even drier. I'll turn the sound on now, Anthony said quietly. Get ready, daughter. What you're about to hear will be hard. He turned the volume knob and sound poured from the speakers. At first, only the general hum of the store could be heard. Distant voices of shoppers, the noise of carts, background music. Then Ben's voice came through, and Amanda recognized it immediately. She had heard this voice every day for 7 years, a voice that told her, "I love you," wished her good morning, promised to always be there. "Everything is going according to plan," Ben said. There wasn't a trace of the warmth he usually used when speaking to Amanda in his voice. It sounded cold, businesslike, calculating. "I've already started preparing the documents, found the right lawyer who agreed to help for a certain amount." "And when will it be ready?" the woman asked. Her voice was low, confident, with a slight rasp. "We don't have much time. The apartment has to be transferred to you by the end of the month, or the whole plan will fall apart." Amanda felt her insides tighten. Apartment? Her apartment. What are they talking about? "Everything will be done on time," Ben replied. "The lawyer has already started preparing fake documents about debts. We'll make it look like Amanda suddenly has large debts to several creditors. There'll be shell companies, of course, but the papers will look completely legal." The woman nodded, a satisfied smile appearing on her face. "Good job. And then we go to court to declare her incapacitated," Ben continued. Amanda couldn't believe these words were coming from her husband. Death, stress, inability to manage financial obligations. "Plus, I'll find a couple of doctors I know who will confirm she has mental health issues. People will sign anything for money. And then they'll appoint you as her guardian," the woman concluded. "You'll get full control over her property. The apartment will be yours, and we can sell it. We'll split the money in half, just as agreed." Amanda listened to the conversation, feeling as if she were trapped in a nightmare. This can't be happening. This can't be true. This can't be her Ben. The man she shared a bed with, cooked breakfasts for, planned a future with. The man she loved. "She suspects nothing?" the woman asked, looking around. Ben smirked, and the smirk was full of contempt. "Amanda? She's too trusting and stupid to suspect anything. She believes every word I say. The perfect victim, honestly. I've been preparing for this moment for 7 years. 7 years pretending to be a loving husband. Putting up with her nagging, her endless pointless conversations. And now, finally, everything is coming to the climax." Amanda felt tears welling up in her eyes. 7 years. 7 years, he pretended. 7 years of her life were a lie. Everything she believed in, everything she thought was real, turned out to be a carefully planned deception. "Are you sure the court will side with us?" the woman asked. "After all, this is serious. Stripping someone of their legal capacity isn't easy." "I have connections," Ben replied. "The judge handling the case has already received his share. He'll issue the right ruling. The main thing is that the documents look convincing, and the lawyer I hired specializes in these kinds of cases. He's handled schemes like this before. He has a whole network of shell companies that supposedly issued loans. How much can we get for the apartment?" the woman asked, and her voice betrayed outright greed. "At least 12 million, Ben replied. "The apartment is in a good area, nicely renovated, spacious. There will always be buyers for such a place. 6 million each. Not a bad sum for 7 years of work. Don't you agree?" The woman laughed. "You've always been practical, Ben. That's exactly what I value about you. Not like those sentimental fools who believe in love and fidelity." "Love and fidelity," Ben snorted. "Fairy tales for the naive? In real life, only money and connections matter. Everything else is empty chatter." Amanda sat in front of the monitor as tears streamed down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. Didn't try to stop them. She simply stared at the screen and listened as the man she trusted more than anyone in the world calmly discussed a plan to destroy her. Not physically. No, that would have been too crude. He planned to destroy her as a person. To strip her of everything she had. To turn her into a helpless victim, completely dependent on him. "When do we move into the active phase?" the woman asked. "Next week," Ben replied. "The lawyer is already preparing the documents. A few more days, and we'll start filing fake lawsuits from creditors. Amanda will receive subpoenas. Of course, she'll be in shock. I'll play the role of the caring husband trying to help her. I'll say, I'll try to negotiate with the creditors, pay off the debts. But naturally, nothing will work. The debts will grow. The interest will keep accruing. And then, I'll suggest she sign a power of attorney for managing the finances. I'll say it'll be easier for me to sort everything out that way. And if she refuses to sign? The woman asked. She won't, Ben said confidently. She trusts me. Besides, I'll gradually start convincing her that she has problems with her head. I'll say she's become forgetful, absent-minded, that something's wrong with her. I'll start taking her to psychotherapists, who will give the necessary diagnoses. In a couple of months, we'll have enough medical reports to file for her to be declared legally incapacitated. Amanda closed her eyes. All of it was so monstrous, so unbelievable that it felt like fiction, a script for a bad movie. But this was reality. Her reality. And what then? The woman asked. After we sell the apartment? Divorce? Yes, Ben answered simply. I'll file for divorce, take my share of the money, and disappear. By then, she'll already be officially declared incapacitated, so she won't be able to make any claims. Some social services will be appointed as her guardian, and let them deal with her. Cruel, the woman said. There wasn't a trace of sympathy in her voice. It was more a dry statement of fact. Life is cruel, Ben replied. The ones who survive are the smart and calculating ones. Amanda is too soft, too trusting. People like that are ideal victims. I realized that long ago. Even when we first met, I assessed the situation right away. She was lonely, had no parents, owned an apartment, an ideal option. I deliberately started courting her, saying pretty words, giving flowers. Women fall for those banalities so easily. Amanda opened her eyes and looked at the screen. Ben was standing there in his usual jacket and jeans, the very ones she herself had washed and ironed. His face was calm, even satisfied. He was smiling at that woman, and there was nothing human in that smile. It was the smile of a predator who had cornered his prey and was already savoring his victory. So, in a month, it will all be over, the woman asked. 2 months at most, Ben replied. Courts sometimes drag things out, but everything's under control. The judge, the lawyers, the doctors, they've all been paid. The system works flawlessly. The main thing is not to rush and to do everything carefully. The woman nodded. Good. I'm waiting for results. And remember, no mistakes. If something goes wrong, we could both end up in a very unpleasant situation. Everything will be clean. Ben assured her. I've thought through every detail. Amanda won't even understand what happened until it's too late. They talked a bit more about details, discussed documents, sums, deadlines. Amanda listened, as if through cotton wool. The words reached her, but she could no longer process them. Inside, she felt empty. 7 years of her life had turned out to be a lie. The man she loved, slept beside, shared everything with, turned out to be a monster, cold-bloodedly planning her destruction. Anthony turned off the sound and looked at Amanda. His face was full of compassion and sorrow. I'm sorry, sweetheart, he said quietly. I know how hard this is, but you had to know. I couldn't let this happen. I've seen too many stories like this. People lose everything, homes, money, dignity, because of scum like this. Amanda remained silent. She couldn't speak. Her throat tightened. The words wouldn't come. The tears kept flowing, but she no longer noticed them. You have to act quickly, Anthony continued. You have evidence. This recording is logged in our system, time-stamped and certified. It's official material. With this kind of proof, you'll be able to protect yourself, but you need to act now before they start carrying out their plan. Amanda looked up at him. Her eyes were red from tears, her face pale. What should I do? She whispered. I don't know what to do. Anthony crouched down beside her, so they were at the same level. He placed his large, warm hand on her shoulder. Right now, you're going to record this video on your phone, he said firmly. I'll help you. This will be your evidence. Then you'll go back into the store as if nothing happened. Don't show him that you know anything. That's very important. He mustn't suspect a thing. But I can't, Amanda whispered. I can't stand next to him and pretend everything is fine. I'm not an actress. You can, Anthony said firmly. You're stronger than you think, and I'll help you. The most important thing right now is to stay calm. You'll go out to him and say I delayed you because of some formality. a receipt check. Anything. He won't suspect anything. And then, when you get home, or even right here in the store, you'll call the police. Amanda nodded. Her hands were still trembling, but something new began to ignite in her chest. Not just pain and resentment, anger, rage. How dare he? How dare he do this to her? She loved him, cared for him, trusted him, and all this time he had been planning her destruction. "Help me record it," she said, her voice growing steadier. "Right now?" Anthony nodded and took her phone. His fingers, accustomed to working with technology, quickly found the necessary settings. He pointed the camera at the monitor and turned the recording back on. Amanda looked at her phone screen, which reflected the footage from the surveillance cameras. Ben and that woman were talking again, once more discussing their vile plan. Anthony recorded everything, the video, the sound, every word, every detail of their scheme. "Done," he said, handing the phone back to her. "Now you have evidence. Save it in several places. Email it to yourself, upload it to the cloud, so even if something happens to your phone, the recording won't be lost." Amanda nodded and quickly sent the video to her email. Her hands were shaking, but she managed. Then she uploaded the file to cloud storage. Now the recording was safe. "What should I do next?" she asked. "Call the police right now?" Anthony thought for a moment. "The woman is still here too. They can detain both of them. The police will have the footage from our cameras and your recording on your phone. The evidence will be airtight." Amanda took a deep breath. Her heart was pounding, but now it wasn't anxiety or fear. It was determination. She would not let them destroy her life. She would not let that bastard take everything she had. "Okay," she said firmly. "I'll call the police right now." Anthony nodded approvingly. "Well done, sweetheart. You're doing the right thing, and I'll be right here. If you need help, I'm always here." Amanda took out her phone and dialed the police. Her fingers no longer trembled. She was calmly focused. When the dispatcher answered, she clearly and concisely explained the situation. Attempted fraud, planning of a crime, video recordings as evidence, the store's address, and descriptions of the suspects. The dispatcher promised that officers would arrive within 10 minutes. "They're on their way," Amanda said, lowering the phone. "They'll be here in 10 minutes. "Good," Anthony said. "Now we need to make sure your husband and that woman don't leave. I'll go into the store and keep an eye on them. If they try to leave, I'll delay them under some pretext. You stay here, calm down. When the police arrive, we'll go out together." Amanda nodded. Anthony patted her on the shoulder and left the room. She was alone. She sat down on a chair and closed her eyes. A storm of emotions raged inside her. Pain, anger, resentment, disappointment. 7 years. 7 years she had been deceived. 7 years she had lived with a man who was in truth her enemy. But now was not the time for tears. Now was the time to act. She wiped her eyes and straightened her back. She was not a victim. She would not let them turn her into one. She had evidence. She had support. And she would fight. Amanda sat in the security room, trying to gather her thoughts. 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes until the police arrived. But those minutes felt like an eternity. She was watching the monitors, which displayed different corners of the store. Somewhere among the ordinary shoppers, there was a man she considered her husband. A man who planned to destroy her life. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the trembling in her hands. She needed to pull herself together. She couldn't show weakness. Not now. Amanda stood up from the chair and approached the small mirror on the wall. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She splashed her face with cold water from the sink in the corner of the room, and dabbed it with a towel. She needed to look normal. Ben mustn't suspect anything. 5 minutes passed. Amanda looked at the monitors again. Anthony was standing by the exit, watching the sales floor carefully. Ben appeared on one of the camera feeds. He was walking between the aisles, clearly looking for her. His face showed slight irritation, probably wondering where she had disappeared to. That woman was also visible on another monitor. She was standing by the magazine rack, scrolling through something on her phone. Amanda clenched her fists. How calm they behave. How confident. They don't even suspect that their plan has been uncovered, that in a few minutes their lives would change forever. Her phone rang. Amanda flinched and looked at the screen. Ben. He was calling her. She hesitated for a second, then answered, trying to make her voice sound as normal as possible. Hello? Where are you? Ben's voice was annoyed. I've been looking for you for 10 minutes. Did you get lost in the store? Sorry, Amanda said, surprised at how calm her own voice sounded. The security guard held me up. Some problem with the receipt. We're sorting it out now. The receipt? Ben repeated. What kind of problem? Some system error. Amanda lied. They say the item was scanned twice. They're checking it. I'll be free soon. All right. Ben grumbled. I'll wait for you at the exit. Just hurry. I've got things to do today. Things. Probably a meeting with the lawyer who's preparing fake documents, or with the doctor who has to issue a bogus diagnosis. He's busy. All right. I'll be there soon, Amanda said, and hung up. She put the phone on the table and looked at the monitors again. Ben was heading toward the exit, hands in his jacket pockets. An ordinary man, just waiting for his wife after shopping. None of the passing customers could imagine that this man was a fraud, planning to steal his own wife's apartment and ruin her life. A few more minutes passed. Amanda heard the sound of sirens outside. The police. They had arrived. Her heart began to race. Everything would be decided now. She would find out if she had enough evidence, if they would believe her, if they could do anything. Anthony entered the room. The police are here, he said. I'll bring them in. Are you ready? Amanda nodded. Ready. The security guard left, and a minute later, 2 police officers entered the room. A middle-aged man in uniform and a young female officer. Their faces were serious, professional. Good afternoon, the senior officer said. Did you call the police, report a fraud attempt? Yes, that's me, Amanda said. Her voice trembled despite her attempts to stay calm. I have evidence, my husband. He plans to steal my apartment, create fake debts, declare me incompetent. The officers exchanged glances. Do you have proof of these claims? The female officer asked. Yes. Amanda pulled out her phone. I have a video. He spoke with his accomplice right here in the store. The cameras recorded everything. They discussed the whole plan in detail. Amanda showed the video to the police. They watched and listened carefully. Concern appeared on their faces. When the recording ended, the senior officer nodded. This is serious, he said. Planning fraud, document forgery, possibly corruption if they really bribed a judge. Where are your husband and that woman now? He asked. In the sales floor, Anthony replied. I'm watching them through the cameras. The man is waiting by the exit. The woman is in the magazine section. All right, the officer said. We'll detain them now to clarify the circumstances. You'll need to give a statement at the station, but first let's handle things here. Amanda nodded. Everything inside her tightened into a tight knot. Soon she would see Ben. She would see his face when he realized everything had been exposed. Part of her feared this encounter, but another part, full of anger and resentment, wanted it. Wanted to see his confidence crumble, that brazen smile vanish from his face. The police officers left the room, and Amanda followed them. Anthony walked beside her, quietly encouraging her. Everything will be fine, sweetheart. You're doing the right thing. They stepped into the sales floor. Amanda saw Ben. He was standing by the exit, looking at something on his phone. A normal posture, a normal expression. Nothing unusual. Just a man waiting for his wife. No passing shopper could even imagine who he really was. The officers walked toward him. Amanda followed behind, feeling her legs grow weak. Ben looked up, noticed the approaching officers, and frowned. Then his gaze fell on Amanda, and a flicker of confusion appeared in his eyes. Ben Volkov, the senior officer, asked. Yes, that's me, Ben replied warily. What's this about? You need to come with us for questioning, the officer said. There is information about planned fraud. Ben's face changed. First confusion, then rising anxiety. He looked at Amanda, a mix of disbelief and the beginnings of fear in his eyes. What are you talking about? He asked, trying to sound outraged. What fraud? I don't understand. We'll explain everything at the station, the officer said firmly. For now, please come with us. Ben turned to Amanda, his voice dropping to a pleading tone. What's happening? Can you explain this nonsense? Amanda stared at him, a storm of emotions boiling inside. Pain, anger, disappointment. This was the man who had shared her bed for 7 years, spoken words of love for 7 years, and now stood before her pretending to understand nothing. "I know everything, Ben," she said quietly but firmly. "I know about your plan, the fake debts, how you wanted to declare me incompetent and take the apartment." Ben's face turned pale. For a brief moment, raw fear flashed in his eyes, but he quickly regained composure. "What are you talking about?" He tried to protest. "Debts? Incompetence? Amanda, are you crazy?" "I have a recording of your conversation," Amanda said, her voice growing stronger. "Where you discussed every detail with that woman. The store cameras recorded everything, including audio." Ben froze. The color drained completely from his face. He opened his mouth but didn't utter a word. His eyes showed complete shock, the realization that everything had collapsed, that his perfect plan had failed. "This must be a misunderstanding," he muttered weakly. "You've got it all wrong." "I've understood perfectly," Amanda cut him off. 7 years, Ben, 7 years you've been deceiving me, pretending to be a loving husband while secretly waiting for the moment you could take everything I have." Meanwhile, the female officer headed toward the magazine section, where the elegant woman stood. Amanda watched as the officer approached her, as the woman looked up in surprise, began to protest indignantly. But the officer remained firm. Within a minute, they were both walking toward the exit. Ben watched the approaching woman, panic evident in his eyes. Everything was falling apart. His carefully constructed plan was crumbling right now, in front of dozens of shoppers who watched with curiosity. The woman looked at him in confusion. "What's happening?" she whispered. "Shut up," Ben whispered back. "Don't say anything." But it was already too late. The senior officer addressed them. "We have a video recording of your conversation, in which you discuss a fraud scheme. You are both being detained for questioning. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you." The elegant woman tried to protest. "This is absurd. I don't understand what this is about. I was just shopping." "In that case, you can explain everything at the station," the officer replied calmly. "But we have a recording of your conversation with this man, in which you discuss a plan to take someone else's property." The woman turned to Ben, fury in her eyes. "You idiot," she whispered. "You said it would be clean." "Shut up," Ben shouted, and the mask of the charming man finally fell away. Now, before Amanda stood a completely different person, angry, terrified, cornered. The police escorted both of them to the exit. Shoppers stepped aside, watching the scene with curiosity. Someone was even recording on their phone. Amanda followed, feeling a strange emptiness inside. She thought she would feel relief, satisfaction at this moment. But instead, there was only fatigue and endless sorrow. Police cars with flashing lights were waiting outside. Ben and the woman were placed in separate vehicles. Before getting in, Ben turned and looked at Amanda. His eyes held a mixture of anger and something almost like pleading. "Amanda," he called out. "Wait, we can talk this through. It's not what you think." Amanda stopped a few steps away. She looked into his eyes. Those eyes she had fallen in love with 7 years ago, which had seemed so honest and kind. "No, Ben," she said quietly. "This is exactly what I think, and even worse. You didn't just betray me. You stole 7 years of my life, made me believe in something that never existed. I loved you, and you just used me." "That's not true," he began. But the officer stopped him, gently but firmly guiding him into the car. Amanda watched the police cars drive away. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned. Anthony was there. "Well done, sweetheart," he said warmly. "You did it. It wasn't easy, but you found the strength." "Thank you," Amanda whispered, tears welling up again. "If it weren't for you, I would have never found out. He would have carried out his plan." "I just did what I had to do," Anthony replied. "You can't stand by when injustice is happening. Now you need to be strong. There's still a lot ahead, giving statements, court, divorce, but you can handle it. I believe in you." Amanda nodded, wiping her tears. Yes. Many difficulties lay ahead, but the worst was already behind her. Now she knew the truth. Bitter as it was the truth. And with this truth, she could move forward. "You'll need to go to the station," said the young officer who approached. give a full statement, sign the report. We can provide a car for you. Thank you, Amanda said. I'll go. She turned to Anthony and unexpectedly hugged him. The old man was slightly taken aback, but returned the embrace, patting her on the back. Thank you, she said again. Thank you for everything. You're welcome, sweetheart, he replied. If you ever need anything, I'm here. Come by and tell me how things are going. Amanda nodded and walked to the police car. She sat in the back seat as it drove off. She looked out the window at the passing streets, houses, people. Life went on. Her life went on, and now, with the lies exposed, she could begin rebuilding it, on an honest foundation, without deceit, without betrayal. At the police station, she spent several hours giving detailed testimony, telling everything she knew about Ben, about their life together, and handed over the video she had recorded in the store. Experts confirmed its authenticity. Original store camera recordings were also seized as evidence. The investigator, a woman in her 40s with a tired but attentive face, listened to everything and said, "We have sufficient grounds to open a criminal case. Planning fraud on a large scale, possible document forgery, if they had already begun creating fake debts. Plus, if the information about bribing a judge is confirmed, that's a separate corruption case. Your husband and his accomplice are in serious trouble." What will happen now? Amanda asked. They will be held in custody until trial, unless the judge considers releasing them under a travel restriction, the investigator explained. But given the seriousness of the charges and the risk of flight, they will most likely remain in jail. You will need to attend questioning as required, then testify in court. I also recommend filing for divorce as soon as possible and securing your property. I will, Amanda said. When she left the station, it was already dark. The sky was overcast, and a light drizzle fell. Amanda stood on the steps, looking at the illuminated shop windows, the passing cars, the people hurrying along their errands. Each of them had their own life, their own problems, joys and sorrows, and she had her life. A life that now needed to be pieced back together. She took out her phone and called a taxi. Going home felt strange. Home, where everything reminded her of Ben, of their life together, which had turned out to be a lie. But it was her home, her apartment, and she would not allow anyone to take it from her. Amanda arrived home late in the evening. The apartment greeted her with silence and darkness. She turned on the light and looked around. Everything was in its place. The sofa where she and Ben used to watch movies in the evenings, the kitchen table where they had breakfast in the mornings, the photos on the shelves capturing moments of their supposedly happy life together. Every object reminded her of a past that had turned out to be an illusion. Amanda went into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and closed her eyes. Exhaustion hit her with overwhelming force, both physical and emotional. She felt drained, empty, yet at the same time, something new was stirring inside her. Relief. A strange, contradictory relief that the truth had finally been revealed. There was no longer any need to guess why Ben had become colder, why he was constantly hiding his phone, why he was often late. Now, she knew the answers to all those questions. The next day, Amanda went to a lawyer. She had found an experienced family law specialist online. Carolina, a woman in her 50s with a serious face and an attentive gaze. The office smelled of coffee and paper. Rows of legal reference books lined the shelves. "Tell me everything from the beginning," Carolina said, opening her notebook. Amanda recounted everything: meeting Ben, 7 years of life together, the day in the store, the security footage, the arrest. The lawyer listened attentively, occasionally taking notes. "You did absolutely the right thing," the lawyer said when Amanda finished. "You have solid evidence, a video recording clearly documenting the crime. That's a very strong position. Now we need to act quickly. First," she continued, "we file for divorce immediately. Second, we secure your property. We impose a restriction on any transactions involving the apartment. Third, if they have already started creating fake debts, we need to challenge all those documents. But how can I know if they've managed to file anything?" Amanda asked. "We'll request an extract from the registry. Check for any encumbrances on your property," the lawyer explained. "We'll also request a report from the credit bureau to see if any loans have been taken out in your name. If we find anything, we'll contest it as fraudulent activity." Amanda nodded. Her head was spinning from the abundance of legal terms and procedures, but Carolina patiently explained everything. "How long will all this take?" Amanda asked. The divorce will take a few months. The criminal case against your husband and his accomplice could drag on longer, up to a year or more, the lawyer replied. But the important thing is, your property will be protected. They won't be able to do anything. In the following days, Amanda seemed to live in a parallel world. During the day, she went to various offices, consulting a notary, checking the registry, meeting with lawyers, attending police interviews. In the evenings, she returned home and went through habitual routines mechanically, cooking dinner, cleaning, watching TV. But she saw and heard nothing. Her thoughts constantly returned to Ben, to those 7 years she had considered happy. Her friend Chloe, upon hearing what had happened, rushed over that same evening with a bottle of wine and a box of chocolates. Amanda, I can't believe it, she said, sitting in the kitchen. Ben seems so normal. I never would have thought he was capable of this. I didn't think so either, Amanda replied quietly. 7 years, Chloe. 7 years he played a role and I didn't notice anything. Don't blame yourself, Chloe said, taking her hand. It's not your fault. He's a professional con man. He knows how to deceive. But I should have noticed something, Amanda whispered. Some signs, some oddities? There must have been some. It's always easy to see the signs in hindsight, Chloe said. You loved him, you trusted him, that's normal. And he took advantage of your trust. He's a monster, not you. They sat in the kitchen until late at night, drinking wine and reminiscing. Chloe told funny stories, trying to cheer Amanda up, and sometimes she succeeded. Amanda caught herself laughing, and it felt strange. How could she laugh when there was such emptiness inside? 2 weeks passed. Amanda filed for divorce. Ben was in custody, but had the right to send his representative to court. The lawyer warned that he might try to drag out the process. File counter claims over property division. Let them try, Carolina said. We have evidence of his fraudulent intentions. The court will take that into account. The criminal investigation progressed. It turned out that Ben and his accomplice, Mia Miller, had indeed already started executing their plan. Contracts with fake lending organizations, which supposedly issued large loans to Ben, were found. The documents were skillfully forged, the signatures faked. They also found the lawyer who had prepared the papers. He was arrested and gave testimony in exchange for a reduced sentence. It turns out this isn't their first scam, the investigator said during one of the interviews. Miller has already carried out similar schemes. She has a whole network of associates, fake lenders, corrupt doctors, and bribable officials. Your husband met her through mutual acquaintances and got drawn into this scheme. So he married me on purpose? Amanda asked. He had planned it from the very beginning. The investigator remained silent. Judging by Miller's testimony, who had started cooperating, yes, they had chosen you as a target even before meeting you, a single woman with her own apartment in a good neighborhood. Ben needed to gain your trust, marry you, and wait for the right moment. 7 years is a long time, but for them, it was an investment. They planned to get an apartment worth over $10 million. Amanda listened, feeling not pain, but anger growing inside her. Cold, clear anger. Her life had been nothing more than a business project to them. An investment. 7 years of pretense for money. But there's some good news, the investigator continued. We found the judge they supposedly bribed. He denies receiving any bribe, and that hasn't been proven yet. Maybe they were just bragging, but the fact of planning fraud and forging documents is ironclad. Both of them are facing real jail time. Months passed. Amanda gradually returned to life. She went back to work. She worked as an accountant in a small company. And her colleagues, aware of her situation, showed sympathy and support. Work helped her focus elsewhere, and not dwell on what had happened. Numbers, reports, documents, all required concentration, and left no room for self-pity. In the evenings, she started going through Ben's things, his clothes, books, and personal items. Everything had to be removed from the apartment. Amanda packed everything into boxes, and each item brought back memories. This shirt, he wore it on their anniversary. This book, they read it aloud together in the evenings. Every item was tied to a story, a moment from their life together. A life that turned out to be fake. It was especially hard to sort through the photographs, pictures of them at the beach, in the mountains, at friends' birthdays. In all the photos, they looked happy. Ben was hugging her, smiling at the camera. And in all those smiles, in all those hugs, there wasn't a trace of truth. just a performance, a role he had mastered. Amanda gathered all the photographs and put them in a box on a far shelf in the closet. She didn't throw them away, she couldn't. But she didn't want to look at them anymore. 4 months after that memorable day in the store, the court session for the divorce took place. Ben was brought to court from prison. Amanda saw him for the first time since his arrest. He had changed a lot. He was thinner, gaunt, his face unshaven. His clothes were wrinkled, prison issue. When their eyes met, Ben tried to smile. But it was a pathetic, forced smile. "Amanda," he called as they were led into the courtroom. "Can I talk to you?" Lawyer Carolina touched Amanda's hand warningly, but she nodded. "All right, speak." Ben stepped closer. The guards watched him wearily. "Amanda, I know you hate me," he began quietly. "And you have every reason to, but I want you to know. Not everything was a lie. In the first years I really did care about you. You're good. You were a good wife, but not good enough not to rob me," Amanda said coldly. Ben lowered his eyes. "I got involved in this mess out of foolishness. Mia, she convinced me, said it was easy money, nothing bad would happen. I didn't think it would turn out like this." "You spent 7 years preparing to steal my apartment," Amanda said, her voice firm. 7 years pretending, and now you want to say it was foolishness? No, Ben, it was your choice, and now you bear the responsibility. "I'm sorry," Ben said, tears audible in his voice. "Please forgive me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but no," Amanda cut him off. "You don't deserve it, and I won't forgive. You stole 7 years of my life, made me believe in something that never existed, and the only thing I regret is not seeing through you sooner." A guard touched Ben's shoulder. "Please take your seat." Ben obediently went to the bench. Amanda watched his back and felt nothing. Emptiness. This man no longer stirred love or hatred in her, only fatigue and a desire to be done with this story. The court session was brief. Ben did not contest the divorce and made no claims. His lawyer was passive. Half an hour later, the judge announced the decision. The marriage was dissolved. All property remained with Amanda, since the apartment had been hers before the marriage, and the evidence of the respondent's fraudulent intentions excluded any claims he might have on the division of assets. "Thank you," Amanda whispered to her lawyer as they left the courtroom. "You're welcome." Carolina smiled. "You did very well. You carried yourself with dignity." Amanda stepped out of the courthouse and took a deep breath. Spring. The sun shone brightly. The first leaves were budding on the trees. The air smelled of renewal. She was free. Officially, legally free from the person who had deceived her for so many years. The criminal trial against Ben and Mia Miller took place 6 months later. Amanda attended as a witness and victim, giving testimony, answering questions from the prosecutor and attorneys, explaining how everything had happened and how the elderly security guard had saved her from disaster. The court was strict. The evidence was irrefutable. Security footage, witness statements, and the discovered forged documents. Ben was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Mia Miller received 7 years, as it was revealed that she had organized the scheme and had carried out similar scams before. When Amanda left the courtroom after the verdict, she felt the weight that had hung on her shoulders for months finally lived. Justice had been served. The people who had tried to ruin her life had been punished. That same evening, Amanda went to the supermarket where it had all begun. She found Anthony at his usual post by the entrance. The old man was delighted to see her. "Child," he exclaimed, "I'm so glad to see you. How are you? How was the trial?" "It's over," Amanda said, a genuine smile appearing on her face for the first time in a long while. "He was sentenced to 6 years. I'm free." Anthony hugged her fatherly. "Well done. I knew you could handle it. You're a strong woman." "Thanks to you," Amanda said. "If it weren't for you, I can't even imagine what would have happened to me. I just did what I had to do." Anthony repeated the words he had said on that memorable day. "But the important thing is for you to keep moving forward, to live. You're still young and your whole life is ahead of you." Amanda nodded. She took a box of chocolates and a bouquet of flowers from her bag. "These are for you, as a token of my gratitude. I know no gift could ever express what I feel." "Thank you, child," Anthony said, accepting the gifts, tears glistening in his eyes. "Thank you. You must come by again, okay? Tell me how life is going. I'll definitely come, Amanda promised. Life gradually settled. Amanda renovated her apartment, changed the wallpaper, bought new furniture. She wanted to erase all traces of the past to create something new, her own. The apartment transformed, brighter, cozier. New paintings adorned the walls, new curtains, new pillows on the sofa. Everything was fresh, clean, free of memories. At work, she was promoted to chief accountant. Amanda accepted. The job took more of her time, but that was good. Less time was left for sad thoughts. Her friend Chloe introduced her to her cousin Thomas, a civil engineer, a tall, calm man with kind eyes. They met at a cafe, had coffee, and talked. Thomas turned out to be an engaging conversationalist, telling stories about his work, construction sites, how buildings rise from the ground. Amanda listened, realizing she hadn't had such simple, light-hearted conversations in a long time. They started dating, not often, once a week, sometimes less. They went to the movies, cafes, walked in the park. Thomas didn't rush or pressure her. He understood that Amanda had been through a lot and needed time, and she was grateful for his patience. A year passed since that day in the supermarket, a year that had changed her entire life. Amanda sat on the balcony of her renovated apartment, drinking tea and watching the sunset. The sky was pink, clouds drifted slowly, changing shapes. Below, the city buzzed, cars, voices, life. She thought about what had happened, how easily everything could be lost, how important it is to trust intuition, heed warning signs, and that not all people are as they seem. But she also thought about the good people in the world, people like Anthony, who didn't walk past, who risked getting involved, people like her friend, Chloe, who supported her in a difficult moment, people like Thomas, who patiently waited while she healed her wounds. Her phone vibrated, a message from Thomas. How about a walk tomorrow? They're predicting good weather. Amanda smiled and typed a reply happily. She finished her tea, stood up, and stepped inside the apartment. Her apartment, her fortress, her beginning. Ahead lay a whole life. A life she would build herself on her own terms with open eyes and a vigilant heart. She had walked through the fire of betrayal and emerged stronger. And now, looking back at that day in the supermarket, she understood. It was not the end, it was the beginning of her true life.